Okay, well, we're ready to assemble this Auger unit. You saw how I took it apart, how I repaired this Byers electric motor, which was the problem. It got overheated. Then you saw how we cleaned and lubricated, re-greased the Auger gearbox, and how it all comes apart to save a lot of money on buying this whole assembly is the plan. So we're going to put this back together. First thing, we've got the reconditioned motor, and I'm going to stick it on there pretty easily. It does have a line-up hole right here in the back, and that fits into the back of this Auger unit just to ensure that you have it in the exact right location. So I'm going to just set it through the hole. If you remember in my other video, I've loosened the bearing down at this far end so I could slide this whole mechanism forward. There's 3 bolts in behind here. So we're just going to put this right back where it belongs. It is locked in, I can tell, because it won't move. I'm going to take these 2 7/16 nuts. I'm just going to put those on here finger tight to start with, like so. Now that I've got them on there finger tight, I'm going to check to make sure everything is in the right spot. Seems like it is. Put this back up approximately where it belongs. Take my ratchet, snug these up back and forth just so gently I can see that coming right into place where it needs to be. It's a very precise fit, so I want to make sure it goes exactly where it's supposed to be. Don't exactly know how much torque, but I'm guessing there's going to be about 12 to 18 pounds of torque on these because they're pretty small nuts. That's about all I want to go, get them pretty even. I'm just looking at the number of threads that's sticking through. Everything looks about right from that standpoint. Now that I got the gear through there, I'll put just a little teeny bit more grease on this line and behind there, because that didn't get it when I did the rest of it. As you see, I've taken a foam brush and I've just painted the whole inside of this casing. Only, not because it needs lubricated, but just because I wanted to try to help it resist corrosion as much as possible. Now this little bushing, I remember from taking it apart, little spacer, it goes right on the end of this unit here. So carefully put it on there, it's a precise fit. Making sure that we get it on there just right. Sometimes this part can be tricky whenever you put a gear mechanism together. They're very precise. So you want to try to get everything lined up the best you can and put it on straight. So that's what we're going to try to do now. Bottom shaft goes through there. These splines have to match up with those splines. Already put the gasket on here. I stuck it on there with a little bit of that tacky grease. So it's ready for us. There are some alignment pins right here in the corners that will match up with the alignment pins here on this outside gearbox. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by aligning the bottom bearing shaft the best I can. And I imagine once I get it in here, I may have to use a mallet. There it goes. It went right in. Get this lined up the best I can. Make sure that these splines are lining up. And it looks like it's all going together pretty well. Still going to tap on it with a mallet to try to get these things all the way closed down. Put it on the bottom. Yep, case is almost all the way closed. And that should just about do it. Wipe off the excess grease off the outside case. Now, about the last thing that's left on this is here are the bolts that I've taken out. These are the Allen bolts that go in, 6 of them right around here. Hopefully the gasket is still lined up. I'm going to check that with my flashlight to make sure the gasket is still lined up in the holes. Looks pretty good, so we'll go ahead and see if we can put those on. What I like to do on these is I've got my 5mm that goes with those Allens. That should fit right on there. Since this is outside, I'm going to go ahead and take the extra step and use some anti-seize on these bolts. That way, if I do ever have to take this thing apart again, hopefully not in the near future, it will come apart reasonably well. You don't need a bunch of this, but it will help. It'll come back apart. You would use that on your brakes, brake pin calipers, or anything like that. Lug nuts under extreme situations. Now they're all pretty well torqued. What I'm going to do now is about the only thing left. I'm going to recheck these bolts to make sure the torque is even on them. Then I have to crimp my ends on these wires, male and female spade terminals, and they'll go back with the male and female spades that I'll crimp on these. I'm going to check the factory mounts to make sure I get the same ones and the same on male and female for positive and negative. That way, if I ever want to switch it out, it's compatible with the stock setup. Last thing I'll have to do is put a new gear out of this box. A new gear on the back of there and lube it up really well. Then we'll put this thing back on the truck and try it out. Okay, so I'm going to make the final connections on this. Auger unit, I'm just doing the wiring. I've already put male and female weatherproof spade terminals on here, just like the factory had. Now I got to do the last one, so I'm going to take my wire strippers. I'll show you how I did the rest of these. I'm just going to strip off about 1/4 of an inch, like that. You can also do it with a standard pair, just like this. I like these little quick ones. Then there's my spade terminal. This is the male end. It will end up in the female end right there. Before I put that on, just for extra precaution, I'm going to take a little piece of heat shrink tubing, like this one right here. I've just cut off about 3/4 of an inch of it. I'm going to slip it right over the top there. I'm going to take my terminal, slide it right on, make sure it's all the way on. These are kind of off center, so I want to make sure that I get this so that it's going to fit at the right angle. So I'm just going to take a quick look at that. Looks like that should be up. I'm going to take my crimper tool, put it on the yellow part. Once again, twist it so that it's up. Sort of hold that wire in while you get the crimp on. After you get it tight, then you can really snug it down good and solid. And that'll be that. Then I'm going to take this right back up to the top. Just fit the heat shrink right over there. And that's going to prevent any water or corrosion from getting in between those. So that's what I like to do. To heat that down, you can use a hot air gun. I'm going to use this little mini torch. It's easy for me. So I've got a little mini torch. You just want to make sure that when you use these, you're careful and you just quickly go back and forth. You will see that heat shrink tube. You want to work around different sides of it. You'll see that shrink right down on top of it. You don't want to leave that torch in one spot or you're going to end up burning your wire. So make sure you keep it away from there about 3 or 4 inches. Shrink it down just like so. way around each different angle. Once you see it stop shrinking, then you're done. We'll move on to the next one. So we got that done. We shut our torch off. And the last thing I'm going to do is take a little dielectric grease. I'm going to put, this is what you should use to keep any corrosion from happening on any outside electrical connections. It's always a good idea to put this on there. So I'm just going to put a little bit, somewhat liberally, each one of these connectors. My snowplow stuff, I mean, especially on the off season, I fill these things up with grease. That way I come back next year and it's not all corroded, and it's so much nicer when you can come and just plug in your piece of equipment and it works. You don't have to track down 10 sort of electrical problems to get everything working. Other than that, we're just going to plug these things into one another, and after we get them plugged into one another, then we're going to go out on the truck and try them out. So there's negative to negative, and positive to positive. There we are, all plugged together, all done. And we're going to put this on the truck and go give it a try as soon as we get the bearing assembled on the end.